Now, I wanted to share with you this as well. This is interesting to me, and it's along the same lines, and making really the same point that I'm trying to make about Revoice and how far that they've fallen. I want you to check out this particular tweet. Now, this was sent to me recently, and I had to go back and look and do some refreshing, but here is the tweet. Grant Hartley, the person who tweeted it out, says this: losing myself dancing at a couple of gay bars in the Castro last night with friends and strangers until 3 a.m. was about as close to an experience of heaven as I can imagine. Heart. July 9th, 2022. This was now it's 2 months ago, I guess, almost, but that's what he was doing. And the response is interesting to me. Hey, you in San Francisco? Matt Michelatis. And Grant Hartley says, I am. And then Matt Michelatis says, nice, I grew up in the East Bay, one of the greatest cities in the world. Now, would it surprise you to learn that these individuals, Matt Michelatis and Grant Hartley, once had positions, even prominent positions to some extent, in evangelical organizations? It might, but hopefully it doesn't, because this is what we've been talking about for a few years. In fact, Grant Hartley and Matt Michelatis have been mentioned on this podcast before. It's been a few years, but I want to show you some things from the podcast, if I may. I'm going to cover myself up here. Let me show this to you. This is Grant Hartley when he worked at Crew, and I'm assuming he's not there anymore, but he had on his profile while he was at Crew that he was LGBTQ in Christ. And this was one of the things he did for ministry in working at Crew, formerly Campus Crusade.
It has an unimaginative title. It's called Coming Out. So I hope you guys enjoy it. We are all born gemstones, but fatally fractured. Our skin, bleeding rubies, brokenness and beauty and tension. And I have heard it said that it is our decision whether we see these cracks as channels for rivers of light to run through, or wounds to be bound and healed. Well, if I tear off these bandages and stretch these arms wide enough, will it prove to you that these gashes cut all the way through? And that I'm willing to bleed my life and all its secrets out for you, ever since I was 13. 13, when that gold rush of blood chose my attractions for me, I've been hiding because I've been afraid.
Okay, we're going to stop there. I played the whole thing on the podcast before, but it's been like 3 years. Now, Grant Hartley did this whole, there's no gospel in this. It's a whole poem that he wrote about coming out and how, and look, he didn't choose these attractions. They were chosen for him, and he's remembering even the blood rush he had, and just that this is what passes, I guess, for ministry, at least at one point, and in Crew. Well, now this wasn't just Grant Hartley. Grant Hartley wasn't just doing stuff for Crew. He was, guess what? I mentioned this earlier on purpose. He did the lecture for Revoice on redeeming queer culture. So Grant Hartley, Crew, association with Revoice.
You have received some criticism in some circles for your involvement with the Revoice conference. What do you think about the conference, and do you believe that the criticism of your involvement is fair?
The reason why I supported the Revoice conference is because I still support its mission of helping Christians live faithfully, regardless of what their sexual struggles are.